Hey, it's Jared from BookLive.com, and I help couples just like you plan and book the perfect entertainers for your big day. So, you're planning out your big day, and you're gonna hire an entertainer. This can be really scary because for many of you, this is your first time booking an entertainer. Might actually also be your last time booking an entertainer, and you've never done it before, so you don't know what goes into it. There can be a lot of fear about it, like, what if they don't show up? What if they ruin my pictures? What if, God forbid, lightning strikes and it destroys their instruments? And that's all super scary. So what if there was a way to make sure that it goes smoothly from start to finish? Everything is crystal clear. You know what to expect as far as booking them is concerned. You know what to expect as far as them showing up. You know what to expect as far as paying them. And it's all written out and documented in a way that you can reference it at any point. Well, artists use contracts, just like all of your other vendors. You've got a catering contract, you've got a floral contract. Artists have contracts too. And if they don't, you should be very skeptical about them not showing up or doing a bad job. So make sure that your artist uses a contract, and every artist on BookLive.com does use one. So I have helped artists, hundreds of artists, create their contracts. I've helped thousands of couples planning their weddings deal with contracts to make sure that all the details are ironed out and secure before the wedding. So I'm here to help you understand what goes into an artist's contract so that you know what to look for and what to make sure is actually there and agreed upon. So the first thing of every contract is the basic terms and conditions. The basic terms are the obvious ones, like the name of the artist and their address, city, state, zip code, telephone, email address, stuff that you need to know in order to communicate with them. It will also have your name on it. It'll have maybe both the couple's names, your phone number, email address. It might also have your physical address too. It will have the name of the venue and the address of the venue. That's super important because the artist needs to know where to show up. And say they show up at the wrong venue and they say, well, we didn't know where it was. You've got the contract very clearly stating this was where you agreed to show up. And then it will also have the performance date and time. This is going to be your wedding date. And it'll also have the time so that they know when to start playing their music. Some of the other details in the basic terms is you should talk about how much music they're going to play. Like, for many people, it's just one straight wedding ceremony, but for a band that's playing at your reception, you might want to agree on the number of sets, and sometimes they'll take breaks in between sets. Play 45 minutes, rest for 15, play 45, rest 15. Those are called sets, and they'll want to negotiate the number of breaks. Get that all in the contract so there's no question on the day of. You might also want to put in a time for load in. If you're having a wedding, you might not want the band rolling up a half hour before you and potentially ruining your pictures or just making the wedding feel disorganized and sloppy. So agree on a load-in time. And then you might also want to agree on a sound check time. Some groups don't need a sound check, but some do. And you'll want to make sure that the sound check happens before your guests start arriving. So like maybe 30 minutes to an hour before the actual start time of your ceremony. So those are the basic terms. The next part of the contract are the payment terms. Artists deserve to get paid. They deserve to make a living doing what they love to do. And they're providing you a service and they're going to get paid for it. So let's discuss those payment terms beforehand so there's no question about, hey, when do I pay the deposit? When do I pay the balance? How much is it? So you'll agree on an overall performance fee. That will be in the contract. You will also agree upon a deposit. Some bands do a flat fee, some bands do a percentage. Get all of that in writing. And then you'll also want to have due dates for any installments that you make or the final balance. Get that in the contract too. Some bands will also ask which forms of payment. They'll tell you which forms of payment are acceptable to them. Some will even, they'll have Venmo, there'll be Google Pay, there'll be PayPal. Get that in writing, cash, check, credit card. And that covers the payment terms. Then there will be other terms that are a little less cut and dry than that. So this is where some artists, the famous example is the brown M&Ms. this probably won't happen for you, but there's a story about a band who used brown M&Ms in their contract to make sure all of the technical details of their contract were executed fully. So check the other terms. For most artists, their other terms will include stuff about they get to pick the music, or they'll let you pick the music. They'll agree upon their equipment being brought to you, brought to your performance in good working condition. There will be terms about transportation and lodging. Some will charge a travel fee, that'll be in the contract. Some might require a hotel room, that'll be in the contract. And then as far as your responsibilities, some artists will ask for adequate load in and load out conditions, meaning they don't have to schlep up 100-pound amplifiers 5 flights of stairs. You know, they might ask for an elevator, or they'll ask for parking spots. They'll also ask that the area that they're performing in is maybe covered by some sort of shelter in case it rains, then their instruments don't get damaged, their electrical equipment doesn't short circuit. And they might ask for a green room or a case storage room, a place to store their equipment that they're not using. Just, it's convenient, it's secure, they're not worried about their wallets getting stolen. That stuff could all go into the contract. Then there is cancellation clauses. So of course, stuff happens. So you'll want to plan for the worst and have a clear understanding of what happens if either you need to cancel or the artist needs to cancel. And this is where many artists will have a non-refundable booking fee, but as you get closer to the date, less and less of the remaining balance is refundable. This is super important to understand that the artist has given up other opportunities to play at your event. And so that's why the non-refundable booking fee covers this case where they're risking missing out on potential other opportunities by committing to you. So make sure there's a clear cancellation policy in your contract, as well as a force majeure clause, which discusses what happens for an act of God. You know, say there's a weather event or illness, that kind of thing. Get that all in writing. Then this is where, like, most contracts are not super in depth here. These are some more optional clauses, which would be about, sickness and inclement weather. And then some of them will also have clauses about recording. So are you allowed to record and then publish the music in a YouTube video of your wedding? Some artists will have a clause that says you have to get their written permission, and you also want to make sure that you comply with all copyright laws for that too. So some artists will have that in their contract as well. So that is the contract in a nutshell. Make sure that an artist that is playing for you has a contract. So just to review, contract's super important. You make sure that you get everything in writing. There are basic terms which cover the who, what, when, where, and how much for the artist's performance. There's the payment terms, such as like the amount paid, and then the deposit, installments, remaining balance, acceptable forms of payment. And then there are other terms, such as the performance condition terms, the sickness, the cancellation terms, and even recording terms. So check out the contract. If you want us to take a look at the contract, send us a message. Again, all of the artists on booklive.com do use a contract. So right now I would ask you, go ahead and browse for your favorite musician on booklive.com, watch some videos, message them back and forth, and when you're ready, use booklive.com to secure your artist with a contract.